Story today for Car Guy Confessions is a tape that I found that I did with Carroll Shelby in 2005. It was a really fun time to spend a good amount of time with him. I actually had to interview him 3 times because the first 2 times I kind of got the canned response from him. The third time he was Carroll Shelby unleashed. He was crazy and fun, and he's the character that everybody loves and talks about. Of lore.
Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
So welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith, sponsored by ARP Bolts, ARP-Bolts. Please go there for your bolts. This tape that I found, I had forgotten about, so it's kind of the lost tape, and it's Carroll talking about different things in his life. What I did is I gave him pictures from history.
Hey, Carroll.
Yeah, Ken.
Can you hear me okay?
Shoot.
Good. Hey, I was looking at some of these pictures here on the Super Snake, the new one you got.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, how that all came to be, and what the concept was. I mean, obviously that's 730 horsepower. That's a ton.
Him
Yeah.
will be able to take it north of there.
Really?
I don't want you to put a number down. We've got engines running at 1,000.
Wow.
And they're docile engines.
They're streetable.
Streetable, absolutely streetable. We don't put 1,000, just say we can go north of there. And one of the reasons that I'm doing it is because we needed more horsepower with the KR.
Yeah.
For certain customers.
Yeah.
And it didn't require all of the warranties that are required. You know?
Right. Well,
you understand what I'm saying?
I do, because I know you got got your executive order on the 730 horsepower one. I mean, that's emissions legal, so that's impressive. But sometimes,
yes, I won't sell anything that's not emission legal.
Okay.
Well, we can go north of 730 if we want to. But that's enough. That gives you enough performance, in my opinion.
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say. Is this something you're developing at your facility right now, or is that something you're?
It's something that we're working with Dan Davis at Ford Racing.
Very good.
And we're setting our own dyno and chassis dynos up there, so we will do some engine development work ourselves. I really like Dan Davis, and I love to work with him and his people.
That's great. That's great. Where does it go from here? I mean, you got 540 in the KR. I mean, is it going to continue to escalate from here? I mean, is this something you're going to...
Yeah, probably over the next few years, we're working with SBT. We will have, more horsepower there.
Right. That's huge. That is a huge deal. Hey, in contrast, when you're running those the GT40s way back in the 60s, what kind of horsepower were those things making?
The 289 we never pulled consistently over 375.
Okay. Interesting.
375 was a Le Mans engine. That's about what I think John Wire pulled when he won in 69.
Wow. Shows an interesting time that we're living in right now in terms of horsepower.
It sure does, Cam.
I mean, I cannot believe. Would you have ever guessed? Yeah.
I consider myself so fortunate to see, after living through the muscle car era, which they call the greatest era in the history of American automobiles, and to live the 20 years when performance completely went away in Detroit, and now to see quality of performance vehicles from suspension brakes and the capabilities of horsepower, because of variable valve timing, electronics, and so forth. I consider myself a lucky man to get to live through this time, because we've got some wonderful automobiles being built all over the world now.
Well, I understand the 09 Mustang has got some modifications. Physically, I guess it's changing again. So there'll be another freshening that'll happen with all the products that you deliver too, I presume.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is it pretty significant? I won't go into too much details, but is it pretty...
No, just say there'll be significant changes.
Okay. the drivetrain stuff, or is it not?
Drivetrain and weight.
Okay. Yeah, because they're challenged by the weight. And looking at your operation now up in Vegas and what you got going now and what you had back in Venice in that era, how do they compare? I mean, is there any comparison at this point? I mean, just
I have, back then, there was a lot of decision inside of Ford. Not decision, but a lot of situation when Henry Ford says, I want you to go win Le Mans. It created a lot of problems for a lot of vice presidents because it ate into their budgets. And now we have a lot better administration in sales and marketing than we used to have back then.
so the operation back at Dearborn.
We had to run our own sales and marketing back then. That ate all our profits up. Now Ford handles that. So it's a much better situation for us. And working with Robert Parker, we really, and the people with sales and marketing, we really have a nice situation with them now.
Very cool. What's going on with the Cobras? I mean, you got
we build between 200 and 300 a year. I don't make it a big deal. I'm going to continue to do it. We will have a aluminum bodied Cobras as time goes on. We'll increase the number of those that we build.
I know you built some lower priced ones, obviously, that more entry level deal. Has that been a successful deal? I mean, it was one of those deals where you have
It makes money. It makes money, but we license Super Performance, and they build most of the carbon fiber cars now. And we have a great relationship with Lance and those people.
You like the carbon fiber better than the aluminum?
I mean
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass.
Fiberglass. Okay, so it's not carbon fiber. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Some new carbon fiber possibilities, so I'm looking at them right now.
That'd be pretty cool. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Anything you want to get in this article that you thought about? Anything we want?
Cam, I talked to Jerry Pitts the other day.
Yep.
And I didn't know that he was there.
Oh yeah.
And I like Jerry, and I'm sure you'd like to work with him.
Absolutely. Jerry there was a time when you probably know this kind of routine where what goes around comes around. Jerry was my editorial assistant at CarCraft. I mean, he was an entry level.
I'll be darned. And I've always liked Jerry very much. And I'm so glad he's running a hot rod, and hot rod is a different magazine now under him.
It will be very different.
Very different, and I enjoy reading it every month.
What's one question? I saw a photo here.
Listen, Cam.
Yeah.
If things come to your mind, call me anytime. Something that you've forgotten, because I want to work with you every way I can in this article.
Well, we'll make sure it's a strong piece. Daytona Coupe, way back when. Anything you remember particularly fond of it? Anything that?
Well, I can tell you that that's one of the big mistakes in my life.
Really?
Yes. Because Pete Brock was working for us, and I said, Pete, we got to have a coupe. And Pete drew up the most beautiful coupe that you ever saw. I said, okay, we'll build one. We built the coupe, and it took 10 miles, and John Collins, about 15,000 miles, I get the end on the ground, get the front end from Benty, keeping the drivers from smothering, and so forth, because Pete was just a young man then, and it was before he had a lot of experience. I had a friend named Benny Howard that had built Howard Aircraft, and he was on the board of directors of General Dynamics, or Pillar 880. And he was building hop-up kits for DC-3s on Washington Avenue, Washington, where, down there by us in Venice.
Sure.
He drew me up. He said, Shelby, if you really want to take care of the aerodynamics, you're going to have to extend the tail. I said, well, the cam effect, I thought that the cam effect would work sufficiently. And I asked Pete, he said, oh, yeah, that's great. Well, that's great. And he drew up the 917 Porsche. And if I had built a car like the 917 Porsche, I would have been 10 years ahead of us, ahead of what we were.
Wow.
You can print that.
Okay.
Because I'm not, old Pete, I don't dislike Pete. I think Pete's one of the smartest kids. I wish he'd ever settle down on something. He's an ex-journalist now. Back in that time, if I'd listened many hours to Pete Rock, we wouldn't have near so much that poor old John Collins Coca-Cola box right needed that thing. He'd 10 miles running around Riverside. So 5,000 miles a week to try to get it so it worked was one of the toughest jobs, and I always got a recorder?
I do.
Shelby GT to me is a dream 45 years ago when we were building cars with Ford. The Mustang was getting hard. You couldn't race it anymore. Had a lot of horsepower. All the muscle cars did. But you can see the emissions and safety standards coming in, which we lost 20 years in this country in the muscle cars, and the 202 BMW became the performance car of this country. To me, that was a disgrace, but I'm sure that Detroit would put a good spin on it, so that we had to go through it. It took 20 years for Detroit and the government to decide what to do as far as emissions were concerned, and I'm not sure they made until today that they made a good decision, but we have to live with it. Right. The modern Mustang and the other cars that are coming out now are 10 times the car that the old muscle cars were because of electronics. They stop, they handle, they ride much better, and although it was a long wait, we have much better cars for it.
Very good. That's great.
Okay.
Just rotate through the pictures that you have in front of you, and I'll just keep the recorder going, and I'll sort through.
Next we go to the Hertz.
Okay.
GT350. Peyton Kramer had worked with Hertz when he was a bean counter at Ford. He said to me one day, we can sell 100 cars, I think, to Hertz. As rental cars. I said, Peyton, go to New York. You know the president. Talk to him. He went back and he called me, and Peyton says, Carroll, I didn't sell him 100 cars. I said, that's all right, Peyton. He took a shot. Because I sold him 1,000. Our little company at the time had stressed us to have the cars ready. They wanted 200 by January the 1st. We made it. We got it to them. But they had the racing trucks. They had the hard Goodyear tires of the time for 130 miles an hour. We got the 200 here, and they had a nice storm in New York and wrecked 40 of them. The chairman of Hertz called me and he said, you son of a bitch, you probably got me fired. I can't wait to get rid of these things. Wow. That's what I remember about that.
That's great.
Next one is a GT350. I didn't want to build this car. Coca called me and said, Shelby, I want you to take the Mustang and make a sports car out of it, because Passano and his gang with John Kennedy had gone back to John Bishop, who ran SCCA, and said, we want to homologate this car. What does homologation mean? John says, well, it's not a sport car. It's a secretary's car. And you have to do several things. And they said, oh, I don't know about that. We'll have to go back to the committee. Anyway, they fell on their duff, and Icoca called me and said, could you make a sport car? I said, I don't want to build that thing. We're building Cobras. We've got 6 racing teams. Lee, that'd be a waste of time to try to make a sport car out of that thing. He says, see what you can do. So I called John Bishop, and I said, John, Icoca told me to try to make a sport car out of this thing. What the hell do you think I got to do? I said, the brakes are too small, the engine too small, it's a 6-cylinder. We've got the V8, but we've got only 260 cubic inches. My God, John, I just don't see how I can do it. He said, oh, put bigger brakes on it, put a big rear end in it. They got a new engine coming, I think, 300 horsepower, don't they? I said, oh, yeah, but that's 3 months away. Take the back seat out of it. Pop up the suspension. Why don't you see if you can do it? So I called Icoca, and I said, yeah. He said, you talk to Lee Dixon in a estimate of, I said, I got to build 3 prototypes. So I sent a bill in for $15,000 to build the prototypes. And Bill Levy called back and said, oh, we got $1,500. So I took out my own pocket and the Goodyear money to build a GT350. I got there $1,500. I hired Chuck Kentwell and did a tremendous job of doing this, along with Bill Remington, Kent Miles, and everybody else. And for 7 years, that car kicked the hell out of the Corvette. And in the end, the Mustang got too big to race. So I saw the end of the road. And then when Ford hired Bucky Newton, I knew it was the end of the road because we had beat the shit out of him for 7 years. And I knew when he became president of Ford, his days were over, so I went to Africa for 12 years. The next one is a GT500. GT500, that was a great compromise because just like the 57 Thunderbird, they had a successful car. But bean counters always have to make a profit. They don't understand that cars like the 55, 67 Thunderbird sell other cars because they draw more attention to Ford and Ford products than you can imagine than all the advertising companies can ever bring with just ads in magazines and so forth. You get covers, you get people talking about it. And they didn't lose that much money on the cars, but bean counters always win in Detroit. Someday I hope that's over. But that Mustang was what happened to most cars there, most nimble little cars that handle real good and run real good. They'll make them a little bigger like they did the Thunderbird, and that's what they were doing with the Mustang. When I called one day and I said, hey, I can't fight this any longer because I don't build anything that I wouldn't want to drive myself. So that's when I went to Africa. There you go. Hold on just a second. Let me get rid of this call. Sure.
Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP-bolts.com. We got a fantastic little backdrop here. They make an outstanding series of bolts, almost anything you would need for engines, chassis, things like that. In fact, we were at lunch today, and a guy asked you about the bolt on the back of your shirt, and and I said, well, it's really about a head bolt. They neck the stem down of the bolt on a small block Chevy head bolt, so the clamp load is even across 3 different head bolt lengths on a small block Chevy. And, so that's the kind of technology that you get out of ARP. And we've all got stories on all that stuff.
For a translation of what he said, call ARPbolts.com.
But the message is that you can't get any better than that.
No, you cannot.
There you go. Nope. We'd like to thank our friends at InTheGarageMedia.com. They have 3 fantastic magazines. They've got Classic Truck Performance. They have Modern Rotting and my favorite, All Chevy Performance with Nick, my buddy Nick, is the editor.
Biased.
So, yes, of course. But it's a fantastic book. They're doing print media, which is of course, our favorite. So
Tangible
color and
magazine.
everything.
in color and everything, and you can get your car on the cover of one of those books, which is
Right.
a fun
that's a
deal.
lot.
Great
Yeah,
tech.
great
written
tech.
by
You know,
and others
not always
that are
written by me,
famous
but
people.
Yeah.
Famous people
Not
have written all the
always
tech.
written by me.
That's right.
Just
So
pick it
check
up and
them
read
out
it.
at
Yes.
inthegaragemedia.com, and they're our friends, and they will thank you.
Let's see what we got here. We got the modern GT3, the GTH. Okay. Modern Hertz car. Hertz came to us right after we signed our contract with Ford, working with a wonderful guy at Ford by the name of Robert Parker. And they'd like to try that same thing again. And this was what we came up with. Car handles good. It still has to be a compromise because we learned from the first cars that you can't put too much horsepower. You can't put too tough a suspension on rental cars because the first time around they took the cars, went to the drag strip, won the drags, won their trophies, took the engines out, put a 2-barrel in it, and took it back to Hertz. So this time, I think that it was a great financial success for Hertz, and we went into the second year of it, and I hope that we continue to work with Hertz because we enjoy working with them, but 3 other rental car companies have called us wanting to do the same thing in case they don't carry it forward. Wow, that's great. Great place. This next one is, what the hell is this? It's a Mustang. It's me standing there, red old 68 Mustang and a bunch of people. I don't know what it is. Is that the 40th anniversary? Say 40 on the wall there? Where is that, Barry Jackson? No, I think it was that celebration over at Knott's. We can. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. That's one of those things that you have to go and meet the press, meet the people, and it was great to be back. Going to Knott's, that's a wonderful event. I know, Cam, you've known about it for years. Yep. I don't get to go as many of them as I want to because I'm interested in their product. I just got so old that I can't run around and do all this promotion. I understand. What's the next one there? Next, the Ford GT. Okay. Let me tell you, Chris Theodore came up with that with John Coletti. And I'm going to tell you, it's the best sport car that's ever been built for the money. 20 years from now, it'll be recognized as a sport car that you don't have to fiddle with all the time. It's far superior as far as mechanicals to any Ferrari, any Lamborghini, any of these very exotic things because it'll just keep on running, it'll keep on stopping, and the air conditioner works beautiful. And I've got to tell you that Chris Theodore and John Coletti did a super job of getting that car done, and I have 2 of them, and I'm damn proud of them. Between that car, it's a copy of the thing that we did many years ago, but we would never have been able to build our street version. Didn't compare with this back then. It's a wonderful car and it's a lot of fun to drive around. I'll bet. Next is the GR1. Yep. I would love to build that car. I hope that the management at Ford does get around to putting a deal together with us. There's some talk of it. It's been revived. I think it's a beautiful car, and it might happen. Very good. Next is number 1, Le Mans 67. Well, that brings back so many memories because when Henry Ford said in '65 when the car was up because of cylinder head bolt problems. After running 10 Le Mans, they changed the head and the head bolts. All the cars blew up. Enzo was there with Henry was there with his new wife. And Enzo knows it. And man, that's the best we can do. And you'll never see a racing program like that. When Henry the Deuce said you're going in September of 1965, Ray Geddes, Leo Beebe, and Don Fry and I were in Henry's office, and he had name tags that said Ford wins Le Mans in '66. Well, you saw 4 people with dysentery because to win Le Mans is not all that easy. Because this was Ferrari. They had been winning for years. And when he said that, and when he put the most important thing that he did, Don Fry left the company, and he put, oh shit, I'm having a feeling moment. Yeah, all right. Oh shit, I'll think of it. All right, no problem. Put him in charge of the program, and when he got Passano straightened out, he got Cali straightened out, he got everybody straightened out, and Bundy, chief financial officer, called me about 3 months in the program and says, "Carroll, we spent $200 million on this program that I can count up so far, and I'm afraid it's going to bankrupt the company." I said, "You better talk to Mr. Ford about that." He said, "Win Le Mans." There's never been a program that so many vice presidents quit fighting with each other and says, "Well, this is what Mr. Ford wants. We've got to, we'll all work together." Jesus Christ, that's unheard of in Detroit. For all those different parts of the company to work together, and in the end, the fact that Bill Remington and all the guys at Shelby put the whole concept together, and Holman and Moody built 3 cars. We won the race, 1, 2, 3. I'll always be embarrassed because Ken Miles, we should have let him win, but I went along with some of the guys before said let the 3 cross the finish line at the same time. Ken Miles got killed 6 months later, and I pray to God that he doesn't hold it against me forever and ever. Man. Wow. Oh, the next one is what is it, Cam? It's a bunch of people in some kind of car. You know what it is? If you can't figure it out, don't worry about it. We'll go to the next one. No problem. See what it is? It's a whole bunch of cars. It's not a race car, Something at Barrett Jackson, I think. Okay. Next one is the damnedest thing. I can't tell what it is. It's a guitar sitting on some car. Oh, that's your GT500 KR. It's got a promotion with that guitar. Oh, okay. Should I say anything? No, it's okay. You tell me what you think. No, that's fine. Go to the next one. Next is the Le Mans. Yeah. If it's 266. That's the thing that, as far as racing is concerned, I didn't think Henry would want us to go the next year, but he did. Yeah. And John Wire won it for 2 more years with the old car that we built back in '60. Sorry, we only get 63, so I don't know. I guess Ferrari, Ford, somebody that won 4 times in a row, but Henry proved his point, and I'm damn happy to have been a big part of it. That's great. God bless Henry. I don't think that the automotive world appreciates Henry the way I do for what he really was. It would take him long to make his mind up about anything. And Edsel came out to work at my place in, I think it's 67 or 8. He called 3 times a day to make sure he was a real father and he cared about all his children. And I'm damn proud to still be friends with Edsel today. That's great. Next is 3 other race cars. I never thought that we'd put all the money together and let the Cobras win all the races they did. This is probably the mistake of the century to use the AC chassis. But we made it work because now you have 20,000 pound chassis mixes we had 700 pounds in. It wobbled so we just kept on making wider and wider Goodyears. And all four wheels stayed on the ground. How we won the world championship with that chassis, I'll never know, but we did, and I'll take it. Yep. Next is old Honker and I. Honker, he didn't know any more about sport cars than a hog does with a side saddle. This Holman? Yeah, but Moody was his guru as far as stock cars are concerned. No insisted that he be in on the thing. And I worked with him, and I worked with them during the whole program. The highlight of the whole program was not what Holman Moody contributed, but the fact that the car that finished third had a stock car driver, and he had never been to Le Mans, and he was one of the he did exactly as he should. And that just shows you how smart the stock car drivers are today. And I was watching the Daytona 500. When that race started, there were 35 cars out of 43 that could have won that race. You look at a Formula One race today, there's 4 drivers or 4 cars that's possible to win a race. And who was it? What was his name that was driving? He died. Well, the line so early. Yep. Next is a picture of a Cobra, 98, David McDonald. Yep. We lost David Indianapolis in one of the worst cars that was ever built. Mickey Thompson was a friend of mine, but I tried to get David not to drive that thing because you could tell it's a death trap. He had all the fuel to go non-stop. What little Davy would have accomplished in life was cut short so early because I think he had more raw talent probably than any race driver I ever saw. Wow. That's big. That's big praise. Really. 289 Howard from Princeton Street. Yep. And Venice. I went to Ford. Then Henry, Dave Evans took me there. I Coco when he was sales manager, and I said, Lee, if you give me $25,000, I'll build a couple of prototypes on a sport car that'll kick the shit out of Corvette. He said, you better get that guy out of here before he bites somebody. I said, I'm not the best businessman that ever lived. I need some help. I said, I need a financial guy. And they said, Ray Geddes from Rev Vest's office out. I wanted to get the money to build 100 cars over AC. And they gave me the money to build 500. Nobody would ever heard from me if that decision had ever heard of me if that decision had been made. Right? Yep. Daytona Coupe. Pete Buck was my first employee. Hey, Carroll. Carroll, look at my boy. Hey, Carroll, you gave me the background on that one. You can skip that one. I got plenty on that one. Well, I told you about it, how I wanted to go on. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to be too rough on Pete, but he needs it sometimes. The next one? Yep. Lloyd Ruby and Ken Miles? Yeah. For me? Yeah. We didn't stay in long-distance racing too long, and I was Goodyear man, Firestone hired Lloyd. That was the greatest combination, in my opinion. Ken Miles and Lloyd Ruby were as good or better than Phil and Jonathan. And the other combinations that have won so many long-distance races, I think Lloyd Ruby is probably a better race driver when you take sport cars, Indianapolis cars, whatever he got in, midgets, sprint cars. I think Lloyd Ruby is the greatest talent I ever knew when you take all of them into consideration. Wow. That's great. The next one is a picture of all the cars in Le Mans being worked on.
Now, what was that garage there? What is that?
That was the garage we had at Le Mans, and Al Dowd has gone on now, but what a wonderful job he did of holding all this together along with Homer and Perry.
Al Dowd later. Al Dowd was who?
Al Dowd ran all the racing for Shelby.
Okay.
Bill Remington was the great mechanic engineer. Al Dowd was the guy that ran 8 racing teams one year.
Got it.
Next one is a GT350 leading a Ford GT, I think at Daytona. I don't think that lasted very long. I don't think that lasted very long.
Nope.
Next one is a wonderful story, Jerry Titus. Jerry Titus, I met Jerry Titus when he worked at Maserati in New York. He built a Maserati 3-liter that Greg studied him that got rigged. Built it out in a big pipe. I drove it twice. I didn't even know his name. He was a mechanic that knew the chassis was his pipe out on the concrete floor. I won 2 races that held the track record at Lime Rock and Cumberland for years. Then Jerry came to work. Called me one day, says, my name's Jerry Titus. I built that Maserati for you in New York. And it says, I'm the new technical editor of Sports Car Graphics. I said, let's go out to Riverside and test a little bit. We were testing the Mustang at that time, turning it into a race car, which I told you Icoca had insisted that I do. Ken Miles was doing most of the testing. I said, take a couple of laps, Jerry. He went out in the second lap. He was as fast as Miles' fastest lap. I said, Miles, this guy, are these times right? He says, my God, that's great. Ken and he became great friends. He became a driver. He went to Daytona, won the first race in this car. And Cornelli was driving the Cougars. They went into the first turn, and Cornelli was a very aggressive driver. If you know, well, he got knocked out by a little bitty guy and a yellow Mustang, and he came in after the race. He said, I don't know where you got that guy, but he's a hell of a race driver. We lost him too early. Yep. Next is Gurney and I. Thank God Gurney and I are still great friends. He and I were partners on All American Racers. Goodyear, contract with Goodyear. And he ran Firestones on the front tire, and the chairman of Goodyear came to him and said, Shelby, we can't trust Boyd. Would you help us? And I thought about Penske, and I thought about Gurney, and Gurney said he could get, this is Indianapolis, 63. Gurney said, I think I can get a couple of Lotus chassis. I said, well, you got half of the business because I got too much business now building Mustangs, going racing. So Ford got into it, but Ford went along with Colin Chapman. Goodyear wrote me a check for $14 million. I said, Gurney, we gotta build some cars. I said, last year we had one car that was been on Goodyear's, and it wound up on Firestones on the front. We went to work with several different people, got a couple of Lotuses, hired Philippe from Lotus. I hired a guy named Philippe. We hired who built all those Indianapolis Meridians wheels? Halpern. Yeah, there you go. Even got him to build aluminum chassis. Anyway, to make a long story short, we had enough money to sponsor it. Now, Ford didn't give us any money. Yamaha gave us some money. Toyota gave us some money, but didn't want any publicity. Icoca saw me with a Yamaha jacket and said, what the hell are you doing with that? I said, you didn't give me any money. I wanted to come to Indianapolis. We had 17 cars in 1965. We didn't win it until 1968. But I got a proof for it. I'm always uncommon renegade. Well, you know what? I don't know what the next one is. Okay, don't worry about it. An engine in a car. And it looks like it's the might be a GR16 valve. I think it's your Cobra. It's the Cobra, that Cobra that we built. Yep, I think that's what it is. 5 years ago, everybody said that car was ugly. Now everybody is big. Hey, come around. That's a good-looking car. There you go. Always the way, isn't it? Texas Series 1. Series 1 today with a little 4-liter Oldsmobile and a supercharger that's masked as the new Corvette. 3.3 and a quarter. Never got the credit that it should, and it's the best sport car I ever built. That's great. My problem was, John made me a deal when he went Oldsmobile. He had about $20 million to do it. Just as we were halfway through it, the EBN, marketing, and General Motors fired John Rock and left me $38 million in debt. I'm still damn proud of that car, and someday it'll be recognized for how good it really is, no matter what anybody thinks. That's great. Okay? That's great. How's that? That's good. Okay, good, Cam. I'm happy to know what you said. Yes, you did. I really, really appreciate it, sir. Anytime, Cam. You know, I love you, and I'll work with you anytime. We'll make it all happen. Thank you very much, Carroll. Have a good trip tomorrow. Great. Bye-bye.
Thanks to the Peterson Museum for letting me use this area and get us next to this Cobra, this 427 Cobra that was used actually in the movie Gumball Rally, which was the car that stole my heart at that point. I love these cars. This car is in beautiful shape. Please come by the Peterson Museum and take a look at it.